Hey fresties, today we have a haul from what a lot of you probably know is like my most favoriteest store of all time, Thrift Books. Before we get into the haul, I thought I would go over what I am reading right now, what I've been reading this past month, all that good stuff. And as always, if you want to keep up with my reading, you can follow me on Goodreads. I will put the link in the description as always, but let's get into what I read last month. No, do not stop again. Just go, just leave. So if you guys watched my bookshelf tour video, then you would know I was taking this book with me on vacation, The Coming Storm by Nora Roberts, which is a 2-in-1. I love when she does that. So the first book in this book is The Welcoming. It was first published in 1989. A lot of people will point out that there are big distinctions between Nora's early works versus her more recent works. Like, the whole vibe is kind of different, but not in a bad way. I like both of them honestly equally. The Welcoming, I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. This is one of her shorter books, which I think was sort of typical for when she was writing it back then. So I will say that the relationship was not as fleshed out as like some of her more recent works. That is one of the pros of her recent works, is that everything is just kind of a little more in-depth, I guess you could say. But for a short beach read, it was very enjoyable. I liked the interactions between the characters, and there was some good angst. I really appreciated the angst. I have been learning about myself. My favorite thing to read and write is angst, because I am at the point in writing my story right now. It's a romance, so I'm at the breakup point. I'm at the big angsty part, and I'm just like, this is what I'm here for. This is why I wrote everything else, so I could get to this part. So I may be a writer because I'm a control freak, but I also may be a writer because I'm a sadist. I don't think I am, but I realized that about myself, and I was like, do I just like to bully my characters? Anyway, basically the dude is an undercover FBI agent, and he goes to the heroine's inn on this like little island off of, I think, Washington State. It's really cozy. I really liked the atmosphere. It wasn't exactly the type of beach read that I expected it to be, because it was like a moody Northwest beach read, and I was in North Carolina, so it was, you know, it was kind of opposing beach atmospheres. Basically, he is trying to figure out something to do with like some money laundering schemes going on, and the FBI thinks that the main character Charity is involved with it because it's happening like at her inn, so how would she not be? But this guy meets her. It is insta love, I'm not gonna lie, but I never have a problem with insta love. Maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic. I believe in it, you know, whatever. But he's like, no, this woman has nothing to do with this, and I'm gonna prove her innocence. But at the same time, like, he can't come out and say, oh, also, by the way, I'm an FBI agent. So, you know, he's kind of feeling guilty because he has to lie to her, all that good angst. So yeah, I gave that one 3 stars. And yeah, it was just enjoyable. The next book in this book of 2 is called The Art of Deception. I gave it 2 stars, and it has actually been my least favorite Nora read that I have read so far. So I was a little sad about that. That being said, I still liked it. I mean, I read it in like 2 days, I think. I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. Basically, it's sort of similar to the other one. I think that's why they're a package deal. You know, all of these doubled books kind of have stories that go together. This guy is also undercover, and he comes to visit an artist and his daughter. You know, he's staying at their house, and I don't know, everything was just kind of like, why would they let this man stay at their house? Like, they don't even know him that well. He's not even really being an apprentice. Like, he didn't really hang out with the dad all that much to learn about art, so I was kind of confused about that. Also, the characters are very like haughty, I guess you could say. I don't know, I kind of appreciated it because it was different from stories that I'm used to reading. They were very posh in the way that they spoke. I think I wrote that in my review, but it still felt natural. Like, it felt natural for the characters, so it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a weird juxtaposition, because one of the reasons why I love Nora's characters so much are because they just feel very much like real people, and I guess for these characters, for me, they didn't feel as much like real people. It felt like I was watching a soap opera almost. But like I said, I read it in like 2 days, so obviously it wasn't like a chore to get through or anything. The external plot was fine, I guess. It had its moments of angst, but I didn't really feel that punch. Like, you know when you read good angst and it's just like your whole body hurts? I didn't get that with this. I wasn't attached enough to the characters. And I guess that was basically my whole, like, every qualm I had with the book was just that everything was just fine. Like, I didn't really feel. The book didn't really make me feel. It was just like, okay, this is entertaining enough. So yeah, 2 stars for that one. While I was in North Carolina, we stopped by a really nice bookstore. It had a used books section, so, you know, of course I went directly to that part. And once I found the romance section, I did some browsing. I had already read every Nora book that they had. The Nora section was like sold out, okay? I was like, these people get it, because she had like her own shelf and it was all, there were like 5 books on there, and I had read all of them except for one, and that book was part of a series. So I was like, well, I don't really just want to buy this random book from a series. So I was like, let me expand my horizons, not just read some Nora on vacation, let's get some variety. So I picked up Wild at Heart by Patricia Gaffney. I picked this up without realizing that it was a historical romance, even though it says historical romance right on the spine. Apparently I can't read. I typically am very much a contemporary romance fan. Honestly, my favorite time period for romances, I would say, is the 90s, because it was at the point where like characters would have cell phones but they wouldn't really use them, and it's like there's not such a thing as smartphones, and it feels cozier to me because there's no mention of social media or anything like that, and it's just like the characters live in life. But this took place in 1893, and yeah, that's very atypical for me to read a book that takes place in 1893. I said in my review on Goodreads that I would have liked it better if it took place in 1993, and I still stand by that because I just think it would have been more interesting to me. Mainly, my issue with this book lies in, okay, well, why am I getting into this? I haven't even told you the synopsis. This book drew me in right away with the synopsis, like, my goodness. Basically, this dude gets found in the woods and he has been raised by himself in the woods with animals. Like, he is not civilized at all. He has no connection to human beings, and these scientists take him in and are basically just putting him through these different tests to see how humans morally are before they're exposed to society. Like, are humans born good or are they born bad? But the daughter of the scientist, Sydney, she forms a connection with this man. They call him the Lost Man. Eventually, like, he is learning to speak English again because he did know how to speak at one point, and he is remembering things from his past, how he came to be the Lost Man, stuff like that. The synopsis is so good. The idea of, like, I don't know, I guess I really like that whole Tarzan thing, but I wanted, like, they call him a wild man. I was expecting a wild man, not a man who is like a little bit wild at first and then immediately starts remembering how to be a human. I thought it was gonna take a little bit more than that, and like he was just gonna have a soft spot for this one woman and like all that kind of stuff. I still really liked it. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but I would say it was more like a 3.5. And the reason that it wasn't a 4-star is because of the main character, Sydney, her brother, Philip. This man. That's a burp, but you might have thought that I threw up a little in my mouth because of Philip. I don't want to like spoil too much. If you don't care about spoilers, you can go see my review on Goodreads. Basically, he gets the Lost Man, whose name is Michael. He gets Michael involved in some stuff that Michael does not need to be involved in. He teaches him things that he does not need to be taught. They call him an older brother figure for Michael, even though he's younger than Michael. He's the worst older brother figure that anybody could ask for. And the reason that it really bothered me was because it's not seen as like super deplorable what Philip does in the book. It's just seen as like, oh, haha, Philip just being a mad lad. And it's like, no, because Philip even shows remorse and guilt for the things that he is doing, but then he proceeds to do them anyways. And then I'm supposed to be happy when later on Philip ends up in a romantic relationship, and I'm like, no, get that woman away from him. Escape, run away. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was a 3.5 star for me. I would recommend it, and it definitely has gotten me on a kick of like, I want to find more books with this synopsis. So I have been looking into that. Okay, so those are the books that I read last month in June. Also, you would know that I was reading, why did I say was like that? I was reading this book, Boundary Lines, the second book in this, again, another double feature. It was maybe like 2 chapters into it or something like that, and I have been continuing that. I don't know why I haven't finished it yet. I don't know why I'm not reading it more, because I'm really enjoying it. And it just got to like the juicy part, because it's 2 ranchers against each other. They just discovered that somebody cut the fence that separates their ranches. Somebody is like smuggling cattle from the woman's ranch. Now they gotta find out who. Now that we have discussed that, let's get into the haul. All right, I'm just going in blind. We're gonna take them out as I take them out. Of course, the first one is a Nora Roberts book. Now, one thing about thrift books is that the books will have like stickers on them a lot of the times when you get them, but I haven't had too many issues with taking them off. I've only messed up the spine of one book that I've gotten because of, I think, this little thrift book sticker that they put on there. Considering how many books I've gotten from them, it's a pretty good ratio. So, you know, as long as you're careful, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not gonna take them off right now because that would be boring content. This is Tonight and Always, beautiful condition. I mean, I paid, I think, $4.67 for this, and it retails for $13. 1983? Okay, so we're going back further. This will be even more early Nora. What did I say? I said I wanted more Wild Man. We've got Wild Thing by Anne Stewart. Rippling muscles. His blatant masculinity frightened and excited her all at once. Elizabeth longed to give in to her primitive, unexplored desires. This is one of those romance books that you don't want to get caught reading. Like, this is the type of romance book that if it didn't have this cover, it would have like a shirtless man on the cover, but you know. I am excited to read this. Hopefully it gives me like all the stuff that I was wanting from the other book that the other book didn't have, and hopefully it doesn't have the other stuff that the book did have. Is this a historical romance? I don't even know. I don't think so. I will almost certainly like this one better. I'm not trying to shade historical romance, by the way. It's just a personal preference. A lot of it genuinely has to do with the fact that like stuff back then was not pleasant. Like, I don't really want to read about stuff back then in this romanticized light when it's like, nah, because it did kind of suck though. Like, I would rather just read about now when things are better, at least. All right, next up, another Nora. We've got Angels Fall. I have read this before. It is in my Goodreads list of my favorite romances of all time. I wanted a physical copy, so I got one. I will probably reread this again because it has been a while. This was one of the first Nora books I read. I think it was the third Nora Roberts book I ever read. I also have seen the movie of this one, and I don't know. The movies never do her books justice. I'm gonna just say that. The movie adaptation for Montana Sky. Last but not least, surprise, surprise, another Nora. I'm working on my collection, okay? This is Hidden Riches. Oh, I didn't even really talk about Angels Fall. Basically, this woman was a witness to a shooting. She worked in a restaurant and there was a shooting, and a lot of the people that she knew, her friends, her coworkers, were killed in this shooting, and she survived, and she harbors guilt for that, and she still has PTSD from it as well. If I remember correctly, she does not like to settle in one place for long because, you know, she's scared of making those connections again when life can just be taken away. So she comes to this small town called Angels Fall and gets a job as a cook in a diner and meets the hero in this book. His name is Brody. I remember, like, he's okay, but he is a little, like, I guess alpha would be the technical term here, and I've never really been big into alpha male characters. I'm like, nah, it's too much. Tone it down. Take it down several notches. So he's teetering just on the edge of like a little too much for me, but I like him. I remember I was like, yeah, he's fine. He has a good heart, so that's what matters. Then the main character, she's on a hike and she sees way in the distance a man kill a woman, and she is like trying to convince everybody that she saw this, and nobody really thinks that she did. I think even the hero doesn't quite believe her at first, but eventually he's like, okay, she's not playing around, this was real. Let's get to the bottom of it. So it's a romantic thriller. I don't remember too much about it, but I mean, it's on my favorites list, so that's why I want to reread it. Okay, now let's get into the next one. Hidden Riches. I have not read this one. Okay, my battery's about to die. Uh-oh. Okay, well, to preface, this is about a retired cop and antique seller. I'll let you know more when I read it. Thank you guys for watching. My camera is like flashing at me that it's about to terminate itself. So I will see you guys in the next video, and I will keep you updated on how these books go, how I like them. Subscribe. Add me as a friend on Goodreads if you want to, and subscribe if you want more videos about books, writing, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for 1,600 subscribers. That's crazy. I will see you guys in the next video.